Well, I'm joined today by our Educators of the Year from Warren Middle School, Linda Yu and Jeannie Peng. Congratulations to both of you on your recognition, well-deserved for sure. Could you please start by introducing yourselves and your history in the Warren Township Schools? And maybe Mrs. Peng, you could start.
Oh, hello everyone. I am Mrs. Peng. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So a little bit about my background. So I am a teacher of Mandarin Chinese and math. So I teach all 3 grade levels in Mandarin Chinese and all 3 grade levels of math, not all at the same time, okay? So this year I do have 8th grade algebra class, and then 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade Mandarin Chinese. And my history. So I am a resident of Warren Township. So I was very lucky to have 2 kids go through the Warren education system. So I have to say I am so proud, and it's an excellent district, and my children enjoyed their learning here, and they're all doing pretty well. So that's pretty much my background.
Excellent, thank you. Miss Yu.
I started working at Warren Middle School in 2007. I started out as a 6th grade special education teacher. In my time here, I've taught all 3 grade levels, multiple different areas. And then a few years ago, I decided to go back to school for my LDTC certification. So currently, this is my 3rd year working on the child study team here at the middle school, and working as a learning consultant. I think Warren Middle School has been my only home thus far in my career, but it's a great place to be. And I met my husband here, so that's extra points.
Thank you both very much. Why did you each get into education as a career path in the first place?
Oh, okay, I'll start. Feel free, Linda, to jump in. So I'll start. For me, I am a member of the alternate route program. So I did not set out my career to teach. Let's see, although my mother is a teacher, my grandfather is a teacher, but my mother never, ever wanted me to be a teacher. She encouraged me to do something else. My mother is of the generation where girls did not get a lot of opportunities. So she made all 3 girls, I have 2 other sisters, pursue a career that are for boys. So my 2 sisters study computer science and I study chemical engineering. So that was really not negotiable. So I did spend over 20 years in the business world, in a variety of roles in technology, research and development, not too far from math and science. When my child, remember I have 2 boys that went through the district, when my child decided to take Mandarin Chinese at Watchung Hills Regional High School, I started to help him, right? And Chris told me, hey mom, you're a great teacher. So somehow he planted the seed, and I wanted to actually spend more time. And I really found that it really rekindled my passion for language, actually, and for teaching. I did do some of that when I was in the corporate world. I did junior achievement. I taught at Hillside High School and Newark system. And I was so excited to be around children. So I made the change in career and joined the program for alternate round, became a teacher.
That's a really sweet inspiration from your son. That's nice. And Miss Yu.
Oh, I should have went first then, because I don't have a specific reason or great inspirational story to share as to why I decided to go into education. I just knew that was something that I wanted to do. It was some kind of calling, and so far it's worked out pretty well. And I think, like Jeannie, I come from a family of educators, so it was great to join the ranks.
And why don't we stay with you? What's been the most challenging aspect of your job in the COVID-19 environment as a learning consultant so far this year?
Sure. So not just as a learning consultant, I do spend the majority of my time case managing my students. And I think one of the things The drawbacks of virtual learning is unfortunately the lack of face-to-face time. Typically pre-COVID, I would meet with a lot of my students, do check-ins, see how they were doing. And I think it's that aspect of the job that I currently miss the most, in terms of being able to easily check in with my students, see how they're doing, how their day is going. Not even about school, right? So just to see, as a child, how are you doing? So that's probably the hardest part.
Thank you. Mrs. Pang?
I echo the same sentiments. Not being able to be with my students has been the toughest part. So this year, in terms of math for 8th graders, I have the opportunity to actually participate in the hybrid model. But for world language, it's been very challenging. But you know, what I find is that the constant change and adapting to, you know, how best to really engage and motivate students. I have some students, and I'm lucky. I'm going to tell you that I am really lucky because self-selection, my students who choose to learn Mandarin Chinese are never choosing it because they heard it was easy. So they are, for the most part, self-motivated. So I'm lucky. But I think that this COVID world has really put a damper on many students. You know, they spend way too much time in front of the computer. So keeping them engaged and keeping them sort of applying themselves, working towards a goal, it has been challenging.
And let's go to the other side of that, of the coin. We have a lot of staff members who are very innovative and trying to connect with students and make the most of the situation. So could you share an area of success that you had with your students in this environment?
Linda, do you want to go? Or?
I mean, sure. I mean, the day-to-day, I think, my answer will be a little bit different because I'm not in the classroom all the time with students. But I see that my colleagues creating amazing things, like you said, Dr. Mingle, being super innovative. And also I think it shows not only their resiliency as staff members, as adults, but also, you know, I am so happy to see the resiliency of our students being able to shift either to full virtual learning or, you know, coming in with a hybrid model. They have been absolutely amazing in adapting to this new type of learning when things don't work. Having the resiliency to kind of figure something out. So that's great to see.
Okay, so, you know, a few things. What I learned from every day is something different. So I do have to change. So let me just talk about my students in sort of world language. I find that I have the most success when I actually get them to do things, right? So for example, for 6th grade, I try to have them recite the multiplication table. See, I'm not far from a math teacher, right? Even in Chinese, I make them memorize the multiplication table. And they actually have to record themselves, right? So I really want them to actually be doing as opposed to just listening to me. It is very hard in this environment, remote teaching, you know, not to be the teacher-centered teacher, right? So every day I have to find out ways how to get them engaged and to perform, right? And so much to my delight, and they did it, and they were able to recite the multiplication table and actually do math problems in Chinese. I actually give them, you know, math tests in Chinese. So they hung in there with me. I think the 7th grade probably had the most fun because I actually made it into an art project. They had to actually create this foot game called, it's like a hacky sack, you know, Chinese birdie game, right? So part of the traditional Chinese sport. So they made the device, right? And then they had to film themselves. So I learned that children are really proud. So they love recording them. Oh, not everyone. They like recording themselves. And then we had a lot of fun watching, you know, each other through their camera. So that's what I find most successful, when they're really having fun, not being taught to.
Yeah, those are great. I don't envy the challenge of taking a math test in a secondary language. So
Yes, it is very hard. I told them that. So if they can do it, and I do give them lots of accolades because I tell them, because I immigrated to this country when I was in 7th grade, not too far from their age. And doing math, today I do math in Chinese, right? You do math in your, mother tongue. It's very hard to do it in a second language.
Interesting.
That's why the rumor has it that I am a very hard teacher. Rumor is correct.
Well, we're getting the word out. So if we can think ahead to a time post-COVID and post this environment, how would you want your students to remember their time with you right now? How would you want them to think back and remember their time?
I think that's a tough question. I don't know if you want more time to think, Jeannie. I can go first if you want.
Sure.
Okay. I think in general, again, my role is a little bit different than a classroom teacher. But I think especially during this time where it's not as easy just to raise your hand in class and, ask the teacher for help, I think self-advocacy is such a big lesson that I hope all of my students feel like I've tried to teach them. And I think in general, even pre-COVID, and especially during the times that we're living in now, to be a good person is hopefully the most important lesson that I can teach any of my kids.
Thank you.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, right? Being a good person. I think that for me, I can tell that prior to this COVID challenge that we have, I used to hear from students, and what really made me proud is when they actually write to me, right? Or I run into them, and they do tell me that consistently, they do tell me that what they learned from me is around hard work, okay? And so I usually feel very proud when I can be remembered. And of course, let me just qualify this. I'm unusual because I have them for 3 years in a row, right? So they really have to try hard to forget me. So I do bring to my classroom, I tell them all the time, I tell their parents too, that I pretend and I think that I'm their mother, right? So I tend to be a tiger mom, and I tend to be a more severe teacher, high expectations. And I teach them the lesson about working hard. So this year, I think what's wonderful is that I really now put, emphasis on working hard and less around grades. And I think that one thing I do want them to remember is that no matter how hard the situation is, right? You just do the best that you can and you will overcome. So that's it.
I think that's a wonderful sort of ending comment there. As far as the inspiration and all of that. I wonder if either of you have anything else you'd like to add or say before we close up.
Well, just thank you for this award. It was a very humbling experience. And
yes, and I cannot stress enough, Dr. Mingo. I feel so honored because I work with amazing teachers here at Warren Middle School. And I know they were amazing when my own children were in school here. So I feel so honored to have been awarded with this. So thank you very much.
Well, certainly the thanks go to both of you. The recognition is well-deserved for both of you without a doubt. And I want to say thank you for your perseverance and your resiliency, to use your description before, because it has certainly not been easy last spring when we went out originally, planning and the unknowns of the summer and then reopening. And it's certainly, the leadership of people like you across the district who have made it so that we've been able to keep the doors open, keep students moving forward in a positive direction. And so congratulations for the award and the recognition. Very well deserved. And thank you for sharing your stories.